Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back, and it's time to take a look at some more linebackers. And earlier today, I took a look at the two linebackers who I think have, I'll say, a chance to be taken in the first round. I think it's unlikely, but they have a chance. This video, I'm going to talk about the linebackers who I think are going to go in the second or third rounds pretty much for sure. And there aren't that many of them. I think I said it earlier today. There are only like 5 linebackers I think are going to go in the top 100. It's not a great crop, but these are the guys who I see probably doing it. We're going to start with Jack Campbell of Iowa, 23 years old, a little bit of an older player. Bigger guy as well. 6'5", almost 250 pounds, arms just shy of 32 inches, hands just north of 10 and a quarter. His combine scores, look, when you're 250 pounds, you're not going to run a super fast 40 most of the time, so 4.65 is kind of expected. His 10-yard split was actually pretty respectable given how slow it was. His vertical jump, pretty nice for a guy of his size, workable, decent broad, 3-cone, pretty good. The 20-yard shuttle was actually really nice, 4.24. So Jack Campbell, basically, most of the big boards have him going in the latter part of the second round. PFF, Tankathon, ESPN, Sports Illustrated. The Draft Network has him going in the third, and CBS actually has him going in the fourth or fifth. So CBS, not a big fan, but the mock draft database has him currently ranked at 47. So that's a mid to late second round, basically, is how I would put it. Little typo there. Over the last 2 years, he's played in 27 games and has amassed 265 tackles. So he's a tackle machine, making a ton of plays out there. Not a ton of stuff in the backfield, though, which that's got to get your attention a little bit, right? Like, this guy's making all these tackles, but barely any of them are for a loss. He's got 2 sacks. He has made plays in coverage. Like, he's got 4 interceptions over the last 2 years, which is good for a slower linebacker. And in 2021, he actually had 6 pass defense, which is really good. So it's a very productive career, no doubt. Over the last 2 years, 265 tackles. There are not a lot of players in college football that could match that. So his size does help him against the run. You would expect that, right? Like, when a linebacker weighs this much, you would expect him to be good against the run. He's big enough and powerful enough to take on blockers. Like, if a center or a guard gets on him in the run game, he's not going to get completely washed out of the play. He's going to find a way to make an impact on the play. He navigates traffic well, and honestly not bad in coverage close to the line of scrimmage overall, I would say. You leave him in zone coverage at least, I think you're going to be okay with it. He's very smart, very cerebral player, high IQ, great tackler. He's a good leader. I believe he's the captain of that defense in Iowa. Now, he's not a great athlete and he's not very fast, which you would expect when he's bigger. You don't want to see him in man coverage. Another typo. Wow, I'm slipping here. Not really somebody you want to put in man coverage. He's not going to change directions in space all that well. Sometimes he can kind of get going one way and it's hard for him to go back the other way. And yeah, he doesn't make a lot of plays in the backfield, which kind of gives you 2021 Bobby Wagner vibes. I think that Jack Campbell has value in the NFL despite the league moving away from this kind of linebacker. I just don't really like him on this team because of all the outside zone runs you see in the NFC West. That being said, if he's there in the later part of the second round, I don't completely hate it. I wouldn't be against it, but I think we could do better as well. If he slips to the third round, now you're talking. All right, this next guy is the guy a lot of Seahawks fans are circling the wagons around. It's Daiyan Henley of Washington State. 23 years old. He's going to turn 24 like right after the season starts, though. So he is an older prospect. 6'1", 225 pounds, so he's on the smaller side. But he's got long arms, 33-inch arms, 9.5-inch hands. Ran a pretty good 40. You would have liked a little bit better given his size, but it's still good. 10-yard split was solid, 1.55. 35-inch vertical, 10 foot 5-inch broad, fine. PFF loves him. They think he's going to go in the second. So do Sports Illustrated, early second actually. Sports Illustrated and Tank say late second. ESPN, the Draft Network, and CBS say third round. And the mock draft database says early third. And I think he's going to go in about that range. late second to early third, if I had to guess. 2022 was his first year at Wazoo, and he made a big splash. In 12 games, he had 106 tackles, 12 tackles for loss. So he averaged a play in the backfield made per game. He had 4 sacks, had an interception, 3 forced fumbles. I believe his interception was actually a game-sealing one, if I remember. And the year before, he was playing at Nevada, played 12 games, 94 tackles, 4 interceptions. And we're going to come back to that because Henley is a former wide receiver and defensive back. So when you look at Henley, you see ball skills. And those ball skills translate well when he's in coverage, which that's going to help him a lot at the NFL level, I think. So right then and there, you kind of know what the draw is here. Henley, he's undersized. There are issues with him as a player, but he's got some real cover skills, and he showcased them in college and could show them in the NFL. He played all over the place for the Cougars defense, honestly, though. Like, he was lining up on the edge. He was lining up in coverage. He was lining up in the box. He's got great open field speed. Always finds himself around the football. He's got one of those noses for the football, as they say. Explosive athlete, which shows when he lines up on the edge as a pass rusher. He's got those ball skills, like I said, which show when he's in coverage because he used to be a defensive back, which I kind of feel like that's where the NFL is moving, to have these slightly bigger defensive backs play linebacker. Despite being smaller, he does hit hard, and I think he has a chance to be a 3-down player in the NFL. I think he'll be able to become a guy you can reliably leave out there constantly on defense. Now, the issues with him are pretty obvious. When you're that small, you're not going to deal with blockers all that well. He does get blown out of the play sometimes, especially on like inside gap runs. Inside gap runs, he can get blown out of the play. He overall is probably never going to be a great run defender. I think he can be okay, but I'm not seeing a guy who's ever going to be a shutdown linebacker. Like he's going to need a great defensive line in front of him to be able to excel. I think smart offenses are going to be able to make him look pretty bad. And we have a couple smart offenses in this division, so that's not great. And even though he's kind of raw in terms of developing his linebacker skills because he's somewhat new to it, he's already about to turn 24. That's not ideal. It's a combination of being old and raw that you don't love. However, I think his abilities as a cover linebacker and pass rusher make him really appealing for the modern NFL. It's going to take a little bit of time, but early on, I think he'll at least be able to be a 3rd-down linebacker, and eventually, you're going to be able to maybe get something better. I'm just a little worried about that size, but I would definitely make him a prime target in the mid to late 2nd round, for sure. One more guy, it's kind of the opposite of Daiyan Henley to me. It's Noah Sewell of Oregon. He's much younger. He's actually only 21, and he'll be 21 when the season starts, so very young. 6'1.5", so he's short, but he's much heavier. 246 pounds. He's got more than 20 pounds on Henley. Arms, 31 and 5/8, 10-inch hands. Ran a slower 40, but you would expect that from a guy of his size. His 10-yard split was respectable, though. 33-inch vert, 9'7" broad, bleh. And 27 bench press reps is nice. Although, again, he's compensating for his lack of speed and athleticism, so you would kind of expect it. 3 big boards that I have up here think he's going to be a day 2 pick, Sports Illustrated, the Draft Network, and Tankathon. There are 3 others that think he's going to be a day 3 pick, which is PFF, ESPN, and CBS. The mock draft database has him averaging out at 80th overall, which would be a 3rd-round pick. That's kind of what I expect. The dude had a pretty decent combine. I know he didn't have a great 2022 overall, but I think he's going to be a 3rd-round pick. So in 2022, he played 12 games, 56 tackles, which was a huge step down from the previous year when he was averaging about 8 or 9 tackles a game. Was able to make some splash plays, but again, not as many as he did in 2021. And he had an interception in each of the last 2 years, made 9 total passes deflected in coverage. So kind of a interesting player here. Whenever I watch him, I'm just not that happy with the results. I don't really like what I'm seeing, but then I look at the end results of his play, and it's actually not that bad. So this is kind of a complicated player to judge. He's big. And for his size, his athleticism is okay. He has lined up at edge rusher for the Duck defense. He's lined up at nickel corner, actually, so he's showcased versatility at the college level. He's a high effort player. He's a hard hitter. He's somebody who, if he gets caught up in the wash by a blocker, like a guard or a center, he's not going to just automatically get pushed out of the play. He's got some strength. He can fight back and he can hold his ground against move blocking offensive linemen. So there is some upside there for sure. He's not a very good tackler, though. He does miss a lot of tackles. He's not a very fundamentally sound tackler. He doesn't have very good play reading instincts, I don't think. He can get fooled a lot by motion and misdirection. Whenever I see him running, he just looks slow and lumbering to me, which is something that I really don't like in the modern NFL. That's something that really doesn't go over, I don't think, anymore. The further he gets away from the middle of the field, basically where he starts the play, the less effective he gets. He's not a terrible cover linebacker, which surprised me when I looked at how he moved. He's okay in zone near the line of scrimmage, but he's not very good in man. So it's not a complete disaster, but it's not particularly great either. And overall, I think that this is like a traditional linebacker out of like the 80s or 90s. That I think they have value still, but it's not really what I'm looking for right now. I'm looking for somebody who can play faster, change directions better, and cover. So the lackluster speed and agility, just, I'm not that interested unless he slips to day 3, which would be a surprise. As much as I don't think Sewell fits the modern NFL that well, I do expect him to be a day 2 pick, and I don't really want him in day 2. I would definitely be interested in day 3 because there are some things that he excels at. And that's it for this crop of linebackers. Coming back tomorrow with more day 3 options. Go Hawks.